Hello and welcome back to Diamond Kings. This is our second 2015 edition of the weekly YouTube talk show brought to you by sports-kings.com. I'm your host, David Whitlock, again from Houston, Texas. I'm decked out right now. It's a 1965 Houston Astros gear. This weekend, the Astros celebrated 50 years of the Houston Astrodome. It opened about 50 years ago. And they took 2 or 3 from the Angels and are suddenly in first place, the first place Houston Astros. But it's a busy week in baseball. We've got some beam brawls to talk about. Kansas City and Oakland went at each other's throats. Big news that Pete Rose is getting back into baseball in a studio role, and he's applied for reinstatement with the new commissioner, so we got to talk about that. And the Yankees and Alex Rodriguez seems to be back in his old form after missing a year. We'll talk a little bit about that and some of the other hot teams as we go through. Joining me this week are my co-hosts, same as you saw last week, but we'll go in different order this time. So first from Oakland, New York, is Kelvin LaPierre. How are you tonight, Kelvin?
Doing good. Excited to be back for another week at Diamond Kings, 2 in a row.
Absolutely. We have way more fun than you can imagine on this show. Nobody has more fun than our man from Florence, South Carolina, Michael Prosser. How are you?
I would just like to give a couple of shout-outs tonight. First off, I'd like to give a shout-out to Carl Klingberg of the Hartford Wolfpack for the inspiration for this wicked hairdo. Followed the guy on Instagram, posted a picture of him from his days in Frölunda in Sweden, and myself with this hairdo, and he ended up liking the picture. So shout-out to you, Carl Klingberg, and my condolences go out to the entire city of Buffalo and the entire Buffalo.
He freeze up there. There he is. You back, Michael? We lost you there. You want to repeat that thing about Buffalo?
Oh, yes, of course. I would just like to send out my condolences to the entire Buffalo Sabres organization and the entire fan base because you guys got screwed.
And, of course, he's talking about the NHL draft lottery. The fix is in. Edmonton gets the first pick, and Buffalo languishes once again.
For the 4th time in 6 years.
And they still won't do anything with that 6 years.
Right.
Nope.
So back to baseball. This is a baseball show. So the first topic we're going to talk about, anybody watching baseball this weekend saw a lot of activity between the Oakland A's and Kansas City Royals. Just to recap kind of what happened on Friday night, there was a rough slide from the Oakland A's Brett Lawrie taking out Alcides Escobar from the Kansas City Royals on a rough slide, breaking up a double play. Escobar left the game. He seems to be okay. He played later in the weekend. The next day, Yordano Ventura came, and after giving up a 3-run shot to Josh Reddick, decided that Brett Lawrie needed a fastball in his ribs. So he plucked him there, immediately was ejected by home plate umpire Jim Joyce, and the bench is kind of cleared. That was more of a hi, how you doing type thing. Then today, this is Sunday, what happened? Again, Brett Lawrie gets a pitch right over his head from Kelvin Herrera. The bench is clear again. And there's no love lost between these teams. So we'll start with Michael this time. What do you make of this? Is this the way baseball should be? Is it like hockey where the game polices itself? Who is at most fault here? How does baseball clean this up?
Well, I mean, personally, I don't know if it should. I mean, everybody's been trying to get people to watch baseball since, I don't know, the last 10, 15 years. Why not throw in a fight every now and then? I mean, it seems to work for the game of hockey. A lot of people like it when basketball players go up into the stands, even though all the sports writers call it disgraceful and all this other good crap. But look at it this way. People love violence. I like violence. I like watching violence. The reason why I think I like it better in baseball is because it doesn't happen as often. Now, having said that, this is something that goes back far beyond you and me, Kelvin, you and me, David. This goes back for a while now. I mean, what am I saying that what Brett Lawrie did was, wrong? I can't say. I wasn't there. I don't know what was going on through Brett Lawrie's head. I'm not Brett Lawrie. Although I wouldn't mind it, though. I would like that contract. Anyways. Kansas City, they did what they had to do. They did what they felt was right. It was a nice little show. I like this. I like this new rivalry. I'm not going to say that it's Red Sox-Yankees just yet, but it's something to look forward to. And speaking of Kansas City Royals, ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in 2015, Mr. Leroy the McConnell III, a man who needs no introduction.
You're a little quiet there, Leroy. I don't know if it's just through my headphones or not, but if you make sure you speak up. We're talking about the big brawls between Oakland and Kansas City. Michael kind of kicked it off there. He apparently likes violence, thinks it's interesting. Kelvin, what do you think about the whole situation?
Well, Friday night I was umpiring a baseball game, so I didn't get really much into it. We don't get ESPN here in college, so it's kind of hard to see all the stuff. So I turned on MLB Network today to catch up on everything. And Lowry's slide was horrible. It was way late. He knew what he was doing. He was getting into it. He knew what he was trying to. I know he was trying to break up the double play there, but he slid way late. He was like a foot away from the bag when he started sliding. It was intentional, trying to take him out. He did it. You go back the next day. You hit the guy. It's over. Done with. Nothing should have happened after that. It's done and over with. But then you go after him today. Then Lorenzo Cain gets hit in the ankle. Wenches are warned. Yost gets tossed for arguing, hey, we can't retaliate. We can't pitch inside now. What are you doing? And stuff like that. And now it's just – and these teams had a history last year, but the Oakland A's seems like since they re-rostered their whole roster again, there's no history between these two teams, but now it's just back again like it was last year. So I look at it like this. This rivalry is going to continue and just keep building and building, and it's good for baseball because the Yankees-Red Sox rivalry is dead. There's nothing really there. There's two players on the Red Sox that were there when the Yankees and Red Sox rivalry was really going on, and that's David Ortiz and Dustin Pedroia. Everybody else is brand new, not really a big deal anymore. Derek Jeter's gone, Jorge Posada. All the players that really hated each other, like on the field as competitors, are gone. So this is good for baseball. It will draw more people in.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting for sure. It's a shame these teams are only going to play just a handful of times since they're not in the same division. Leroy, you're a Royals fan. What are your thoughts on what went down this weekend? Okay.
We may have lost Mr. McConnell III.
Yeah, I see you, but we can't hear you.
Yeah, his screen's frozen.
I'm seeing him move around.
Wow.
All right, we'll see if we can get
We
it.
seem to be having some technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Stand by.
I can't hear you. Okay, Leroy, I think your microphone might be muted or something, so check that. It's happened to me before. We'll move on to the next topic. We'll come back if Leroy can get his microphone up and going. So the next topic is Pete Rose, and we were going to talk about this coming into the week anyway. Pete Rose, with the new commissioner, has applied for reinstatement with the league. The new commissioner, Robert Manfred, is going to consider the case, and then it just came out this week, and we had a blog about the fact that Fox Sports has signed Mr. Rose to be a studio analyst, and he will be a studio analyst for both their Fox Network and Fox Sports 1, pregame, the whip-around coverage type shows, that sort of thing. So, Michael, I know you are passionate about the Pete Rose situation. Do you think he should be reinstated? Do you think he'll be reinstated? And are you looking forward to seeing him on Fox?
My goodness, did we lose everybody?
All right. We'll go to Kelvin. You're here, Kelvin. What do you think about the Pete Rose?
Well,
Yes.
Oh.
All right. Michael's a little rough there, so you go first, Kelvin.
Well, with the whole Pete Rose thing,
Like you said,
Go, Kelvin.
well,
We'll go to Kelvin first, Michael. You were cutting out there.
I'm glad he's back in some sort of capacity with baseball. I'm glad he's back working with Fox, going to be doing some broadcasting for them. See what he's got broadcasting-wise, like he had baseball-wise with 4,000 hits. Let's see if he makes another hit being a broadcaster. But as far as him getting reinstated and able to be elected into the Baseball Hall of Fame. It came out shortly after our program ended last week. The New York Times sat down with the new commissioner of baseball, and he said that betting on the game of baseball, in his opinion, is 10 times worse than taking steroids in the game, which tells you right now that the MLB commissioner has no thoughts whatsoever of allowing Pete Rose back in the good graces of baseball anytime soon. It's been 25 years, and I don't think he should be in because of that. You bet on the game. Steroids is a completely different thing. You take a steroid, you still have to go out there, make contact with the ball to hit a home run or do anything to help your team win a game. But when you bet on the game, you bet against your team, you can easily get picked off, try and take a double into a triple to get thrown out, so you're not going to risk losing your money. You're going to make money for people, and you're going to make money yourself just off of that. So I don't think he should be in the Hall of Fame regardless or ever allowed back in, which is why he's banned for life.
All right, we'll check in on Leroy. Leroy, how's the audio working? Still can't hear. I can maybe barely hear you. All right. Well, I'll talk a little bit about Rose while Leroy gets straightened out and Michael maybe dials back in. I'm looking forward to seeing him in the studio for sure. I think he's got some thoughts on the game. I think it might be a little bit risky for him to do it, thinking that he could say something crosswise with the league. He's been known to run his mouth before, but it'll be interesting to hear his thoughts. He's been out of the game so long, and the game when he played it's a lot different than it is now. Some of the strategies. So, and he was a manager for a long time, so he knows the strategies. He knows everything about the game. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how he handles the studio. And I tend to agree with Kelvin. I know that Michael thinks he should get in, and we heard some yes in there. There's just something about betting on baseball that even though it's been a while, I kind of go back and forth. I think that maybe he should get in. Let bygones be bygones, but at the same time, it's the number one rule. So I think we have to stick with that. While Leroy kind of gathers his another set of headphones there, let's move to another topic, and let's see if Michael comes back in. Maybe he can offer some Pete Rose thoughts.
Oh, I see his Dropkick logo.
Yeah, there he is. All right, Michael is back. It looks like
we're good.
Yeah, we're good. All right, so back to Pete Rose question.
Sorry, there is a hellacious storm blowing outside. It's completely like screwing everything up in here. So.
All right, so back to the Pete Rose questions. Right when you started,
and now Leroy's gone.
Yeah, he's having trouble too. But so, what are your thoughts on Pete Rose? Should he be back in? You didn't hear our thoughts, so you can't be tainted by that. Should he be back in? And what about the studio work?
Well, I'm excited that Pete Rose is getting back in the game of baseball, even though it is in a smaller role. I read the New York Times article that they had with the commissioner. I know what he, thinks about it. But my response to that is, look, in both cases, be a steroid taker or a bet placer, the game was altered in some way, shape, or form. Why don't they hold equal weight of hatred for the commissioner? One person bet on the game of baseball and was banned for life. A whole Balco investigation have been accused, and some of them of steroids. I don't see them getting banned for life from baseball. Pete Rose has done his time. He has spent 25 years in baseball jail. Let the man out. Let the man be free. Let the man have his Shawshank Redemption moment. Let him crawl through 5 new commissioners stand out a lot more than Bud. Remember about Bud Selig is he looked too much like Stephen Hawking. Let an All-Star game be tied, and he's responsible for the 1994 baseball strike. So I mean, get off on the right foot here, new baseball commissioner, because as of right now, I don't even know your name.
Ouch.
Doug Manford.
All right. Robert Manford. All right, Leroy.
Robert.
Another try?
Robert Redford.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Hey, we hear you.
Oh my God! I didn't do anything different.
All right. Now, I could see you before, just couldn't hear you.
What's
All
going
right.
on, fellas?
Good to see you. Good to have you back. Let's start with, let's go back to the first subject, this Royals and Oakland A's situation. What's your takeaway from the hard slides, the beanballs, the pitch clearing balls, all of it?
Well, I think it's a bunch of crap. The Royals are being the huntee, of course, because they made it to the World Series last year. So, you know, right now everybody's trying to pick on them. They lead the major league in pitches, and I think they've had enough. And that was basically what Brett Lowry did the other day, because it was a forced play. He wasn't trying to break up a double play. So that high spike, you know, he should have got his butt kicked right then. Ventura, I'm glad he did what he did, but he should have did the first Laurie's first bat, because, you know, that was uncalled for. And you know, hey, bring it on. You know, Royals answer the bell. You know, if people want to pick on them, they're gonna have to bite back. So, you know, I didn't see anything wrong with what Ventura did, and I think, like I said, it was basically what Brett Lowry did.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But we ain't going nowhere. Royals are here to stick it out. You know, hey, we need a rivalry. You know, everybody been playing nice. You know, baseball. We need some controversy. Controversy's always been in football, been in basketball. Baseball's always been quiet. So, you know, it's good for the game also.
I certainly think it's going to get some extra viewers, and you're right. Even, you know, the Cardinals, Cubs, they're kind of, okay, we're feeling each other out. Maybe the Dodgers, Giants, but the Giants are pretty lousy this year. So this could be a pretty good rival, especially if Oakland can make the playoffs and these two teams play there. Then it's going to be a must-watch series.
Oh, yeah.
So second subject, Leroy, we were just talking about Pete Rose. His potential reinstatement. Robert Manfred has come out in the New York Times article and said how bad he thinks betting on baseball is. He's considering the case. And it just came out this weekend that Pete's going to be back doing some studio work. What are your thoughts on Pete Rose? Are you glad to see him back on TV? Should we forgive the guy? Or was his crime too much?
Well, first of all, I'm glad he's back on TV. There's a whole generation that knows nothing about Pete Rose. And it'll be good to see him. Heck, if we would known this, how come Fox didn't do this sooner? I mean, people make it sound like there was no rule that he could be on TV. I was able to do this a long time ago. He's knowledgeable about the game. He's going to bring some viewers, because you know he still has a night base. So, you know, I think it's going to be excellent for the game. And I've always been on record to saying this, you know, Pete Rose not being in the Hall of Fame is more famous than any Hall of Famer that's already been inducted. So, you know, I think if I'm Pete Rose, I don't want to be in the Hall of Fame. If I'm Barry Bonds, I don't want to be in the Hall of Fame. If I'm Roger Clemens, I don't want to be in the Hall of Fame, because my name is going to always be out there. People will always talk about me.
I think I have to. I mean, you can say what you want about all these players: Bonds, Clemens, Shoeless Joe Jackson, Pete Rose. Their names are going to speak for themselves. Whether they have a plaque in Cooperstown, I mean, it is important kind of from a record-keeping standpoint, but their records will live, whether you believe they did something bad or not, whether everybody was doing it and it's okay. You know, that's where we are, and that gets talking about baseball, and we'll see where this goes, whether he gets some amnesty or if he literally goes to his grave still arguing his case. So the last subject we're going to talk about is a little bit New York Yankees, because last week I was one that was kind of burying the Yankees. They're not looking too good. In particular, this spring training, I wrote a lot of blogs about how I think A-Rod is done. He missed a whole year. He's not going to be healthy. And then, of course, he comes out. He's leading the team in home runs. He's led them to a 6-6 record so far, which is only a game or two behind the Red Sox and Orioles. So they're already right in the mix, even though they're not playing well on a lot of cylinders. So what do we think of A-Rod? Is he going to be able to play the whole season this way? Is he going to get 30, 35, 40 home runs? He's about to pass Willie Mays. That's a big benchmark. How's that going to be received? A lot of questions. Let's start with our Yankees fan, Kelvin.
Well, his $6 million bonus that comes with his next home run.
Maybe.
That's one thing the Yankees are going to contest, by the way. They are going to contest this. They're going to contest every milestone he gets to try and save as much money as they can toward their $200 million luxury tax that they already have. So with that, A-Rod is probably going to play most of the year, mainly at DH and third and first. He'll split time between third and first. If he stays hot, he plays third base in interleague play. If he starts to cool down a little bit, he'll have his days off during the interleague series, and then he'll just come back DH and play third during the American League series. So with that, he's batting .316, leading the Yankees right now. He had a monster weekend this weekend. He had his first multi-home run game since 2013, I believe, and he went 1 for 3 today with two runs scored and a walk. So he's getting on base. He's being productive. If he stays productive, the Yankees are looking to have a pretty decent week, decent year.
Yeah, I think whatever they can get out of him, if it is even all-star caliber, that's really going to bode well for the long-term prospects. Okay, Michael, what are your thoughts on A-Rod? Where's he going this year?
First off, good for you, A-Rod. You had everybody in America kicking you down, doubting you, saying that you're no good, you're washed up, you suck, leave baseball now. And what did you do? You played the game. You played A-Rod baseball. We haven't seen A-Rod this good in probably 2, maybe even 3 years. My only problem with this is New York Yankees. You knew what you were getting into with this $200 million luxury tax and this $6 million bonus for the next home run for the milestone. You can contest it all you want. It still happened. You can't erase that. You guys knew what you were getting into with all this big money stuff, throwing it around. You guys try to buy the best team in baseball, and what are you? Mediocre. So I hope A-Rod does well. Not just for A-Rod's sake, but as like just a big middle finger to everybody in that Yankees front office.
And thank you for not actually using your middle finger and then us making our show only
I
visible by
understand we have young viewers watching this, so
I'd have to blur it out somehow. So Leroy, you wrote a blog after those 2 home runs by A-Rod when he kind of went off. What are your thoughts on A-Rod and how he's done this year and where he's going?
Well, you have to realize one thing. A-Rod is relaxed, and one of the reason why he's relaxed is because the captain is no longer in the building. Derek Jeter is not there. There is no, dividing in the locker room or in the dugout. Everybody is there to play baseball now. Jeter was probably his biggest critic, and people respected Jeter, so they probably would stand off for A-Rod. So now he's in there. It's a locker room where he can relax. They need him. The starting third baseman is batting a $184. Teixeira is batting like .230. So you need his bat in the lineup every day. A-Rod is at peace with himself, and you know what? Guaranteed, we've kicked him enough. People are going to start feeling sorry for A-Rod and start backing him up now. It's good. I think he's going to be there for the whole year. Like I said, you can't take his bat out the lineup because the team is mediocre, yes. But you know what? You better pay him his $6 million when he breaks Willie Mays' 660 because these victories are counting, and if A-Rod is contributing to these victories, you might as well give him his money.
Yeah, makes sense. I echo what you and Michael said. The best way to shut up the critics: go out and play baseball. Go out and play baseball. Hit home runs. Be the team leader. Show up at the All-Star break with 20 or 25 home runs. People will stop criticizing you. The boos will all go away. I mean, the other team will still boo you because you're beating the crap out of them, but that's the best way to do it. I worry about his longevity. Even before the year suspension, he was starting to, he's only getting, 80, 90, 100 games. It was the hip, it was the knee. I mean, the man's 40 years old. He's as old as I am, or he's about to be 40, if not already. And so whether he'll be able to do it every day, even just DHing, I hope so. I hope he's out there. I hope every player is healthy. I would never wish ill health on anybody, so I certainly hope he is. But I have questions about whether he's going to be able to answer the bell 150, 155 games this year.
I was about to say, if he stays at the DH position, I think it would be a better thing for him if he just DH'd. Yes, he's going to have a hot bat. He's got the hot bat. He want to play third base in interleague games. I get that. But if you want a healthy A-Rod, you don't want A-Rod stretching for, a ball, jumping off or coming off the first base, stretching off of first base, or, the potential of injuring himself again at third base, causing him, or causing the Yankees even loss of man games, things like that. So personally, for me, if I'm A-Rod and I wanted to stay healthy, I'd stay at DH.
Hey, I didn't hear anybody booing A-Rod this past weekend either. They were cheering.
Yeah.
Well, they were in Tampa.
Hey,
the home of the Yankees spring training.
Right.
And he did get booed a lot in Baltimore.
Yeah, Baltimore's got no use for him, but even most Yankees fans, which I've been at games with Yankees fans, and they're usually trashing him and saying, "Oh, he's dragging us down." But opening day, mostly cheers. He got that single opening day, kind of broke the ice. If he'd have gone 0 for 8, 0 for 12 that first series, it might have been a different story. But
wait until that happens in the regular season. Wait until it happens. It hasn't happened yet. It'll happen. He'll have that slump, and he'll start getting booed.
Yep.
And he'll start getting the boo birds, but once he comes out of it again, they'll start cheering him again.
Yeah.
Hey, and watch Kelvin start cheering for him if he keeps his production up. I already said.
I already said. I'm on record of saying that I would be A-Rod's biggest fan if he produced. That's all he has to do.
Right. That's all he has to do.
He's on the
Josh Hamilton over there.
Yankees. He's on the Yankees.
Spoken like a Yankee fan.
So, Michael just mentioned the Josh Hamilton situation. We'll be brief with this segment because we kind of covered most of it last week. But just this weekend, some more news came out. Scioscia got to visit with Josh Hamilton here in Houston. It came out that Hamilton was going through a divorce at the time of the relapse. Reports are he's in baseball shape, might be ready to come back as soon as he's mentally ready. We'll start with Michael. What are your thoughts on where Hamilton is now? Did he change from last week or with this new news?
Well, I mean, I think that it was a good thing for Mike Scioscia to get out there and see where his player is at because, I mean, as a good manager like Mike Scioscia is, as of right now, Mike Scioscia has been there. He's done everything. He is one of the best in the game right now still, despite the fact that this is an underachieving Angels team right now. Yeah, they've got some injuries in the rotation and things like that, but that's an underachieving team. So I give credit to Mike Scioscia for looking out for Josh Hamilton because, as we said last week, it doesn't seem like that Josh Hamilton was getting the support that he needed in that Angels clubhouse. So I commend Mike Scioscia for all that he did. As for Josh Hamilton, if you're in baseball shape, physically, that's great. But we all know that baseball is as much of a mental game as it's a physical game. You start going into an 0 for 8 slump, an 0 for 12 slump, you go a whole series without a single hit, that's going to start getting to you here, and it's going to make the snowball effect. We all know the snowball effect. So until Josh Hamilton is ready here and here, I don't think he should be ready to play out there.
Yeah, some good points. He's always been a streaky player anyway, where he just looks like the best hitter that's ever played the game for a couple of weeks. Then he goes a month kind of not playing well, and could just be that every player goes through that. But it could be the mental challenges that he faces. Leroy, you weren't here last week to talk about. So, what are your thoughts on the overall Josh Hamilton situation? Where he's at, where he's going, is he going to play again for the Angels, and so forth?
First of all, the Angels dropped the ball as soon as they signed him for that $125 million contract. When he was in Texas, he had a support group, and that is the reason why he did exactly what he did. He performed because he had that support group. When he signed with the Angels said, we're not going to baby him. He's a grown man. He's going to have to do it. And this is what you're getting. He had problems in Tampa. He had problems in Cincinnati. We got 4 to 5 good years out of Josh Hamilton because, yes, he had a babysitter. Now, Artie Moreno, whatever the heck his name is, he wants to sit there and he wants to threaten him, this and that. He knew what he was getting himself into when he signed this man. So, yes, that's one good thing about baseball. That contract is guaranteed. But at what cost? If you can spend $125 million to sign a player, you can spend a couple more bucks to sign him a babysitter, and that's what he exactly needed. Well, we all know that he's going through a divorce, and of course, yes, he had a relapse. But without that support group, he's not going to have any success. Now, finally, the Social want to go in there. David Freese wants to go in there, and gosh, what is his name? What's the other pitcher of the Rangers? I can't remember.
C.J. Wilson.
CJ and Josh are pretty tight, but CJ is not his support group. So until he gets that support group back in there, Josh is not going to perform. Bottom line.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. That he needs the support group, and yeah, he's a grown man, but he's had problems. He's trying to work through them. Kelvin, your thoughts? Still there, Kelvin?
I'm gonna give Kelvin his thoughts.
Yeah. All right, Kelvin's still thinking. All right, so last season we started a tradition where we talked a little non-baseball topic towards the end of the show. The Stanley Cup Playoffs are ongoing, and I know all of us are hockey fans to some extent. Who do you think, it's only a couple games in, so we can't make any trends yet, but what are your thoughts on the Stanley Cup Playoffs, and who do you predict in the final and then to win the final? We'll start with Michael.
Well, after a disappointing 15 seconds of overtime, I don't want to talk about that. Having said that, I like to think that it's going to be a repeat of last year's Eastern Conference Final. I like what Montreal's doing with Ottawa. I like what the Rangers are doing. I like this. I like the move that the Rangers did at trade deadline, acquiring Keith Yandle from Phoenix for John Moore, Anthony DeClaire, and a first-round pick that's going to be a low pick, but in 2015, it's a stacked draft. That's going to be a solid player, whoever Arizona decides to pick up. If the Rangers can, tweak their power play a little bit, I think they'll be all right. I think they eventually do what they did to Montreal last year and return to the Stanley Cup Finals, where they will face, are you sitting down, the Anaheim Ducks. I just think that this team, despite the fact that there's no true left winger, and there hasn't been a true left winger in Anaheim since Bobby Ryan got moved to Ottawa, this team is still too stacked from top to bottom. You've got Ryan Getzlaf, you've got Ryan Kessler, you've still got Scory Perry, you've got a very deep back end with James Wisniewski, Hampus Lindholm, Cam Fowler, who are both still very young, still have playoff experience, and John Gibson in net, and Frederick Anderson. Plus, you've got Bruce Boudreau, who's not only done it as a player, but as a coach. I like Anaheim, as much as I hate to say that, and I like the Rangers. Now, when it comes to who's going to win it, I think the Cup's going to stay in California, but it's only going to go a few miles up north, and it will be your Anaheim Ducks.
Yeah, they come back last night against Winnipeg, and
which, big shout out, great play by Jakob Silfverberg of returning piece in that Bobby Ryan deal. Kind of looked like he wasn't going to be a guy that was going to eventually pan out. It's been kind of iffy under the radar every once in a while. Stepped up big last night.
Definitely. Kelvin, are you back?
I'm back. I can hear you.
All right. What's your Stanley Cup predictions?
Well, I've been watching the Stanley Cup Playoffs since I get all those channels here at college. So, let's see. After a disappointment last night, I watched the Rangers and Penguins series and watched the Penguins team that could be very dangerous if they get going and Sidney Crosby gets going like he did last night with 2 goals in the second period to take a series tied 1-1. I just finished up watching the Chicago Blackhawks today, and they look pretty good. But Nashville without Shea Weber is not Nashville at all. They're kind of an iffy team with no Shea Weber. Their captain is out. He's out. He did not travel with the team to Chicago, so I say Chicago wins this series because by default with Shea Weber out, I think they go on. They win the next 2 to close out that series after taking a 2-1 series lead today. So Chicago is my pick. As much as I was rooting for Nashville with Paul Gaustad, a former Sabre, I was kind of rooting for them. But I think I'm going to go with the Buffalo native Patrick Kane, getting back to the Stanley Cup Finals against, again, the New York Rangers. I agree with Michael. The New York Rangers just seem to be in the right mindset offensively. Their power play needs to get going, yes, but if they can get past the Pittsburgh Penguins, they get in, and they will reach the Stanley Cup Finals and place Chicago, and then Chicago will lose to New York this time in 6, so the Cup is coming back to the East Coast.
Yeah, New York looks strong. Was so close last year. Can't argue any of those. Chicago's battle tested as well. All right, Leroy, you're up. Who's your Stanley Cup pick?
I can't follow those two. Heck, the Dallas Stars are in the playoffs. I have no clue. I'm all about the NBA. I know the Stanley Cup's are on, but the NBA basketball playoffs are on too. I have nothing. I can't bring nothing to the table.
Well, then give me an NBA pick.
Oh, well, it's going to be the Cavs probably versus Golden State. Cavs probably going to steal it.
I can't argue that. You and I are supposed to be mad at each other for this Rockets Mavericks series, the 50th game 1, but
we'll let y'all get the first 2. Then when y'all come to Dallas, we'll get the second 2. And then we'll wait for game 5.
I like the Hawks sneaking in there, man. Don't discredit the Hawks, man. It's gonna be Golden State. I agree with you on that one, but something about that Hawks team.
You know, the Hawks remind me of the Dallas Mavericks in 2011 when they won their because you know they had a bunch of they didn't have a bunch of superstars. Everybody just contributed, did their job, had a nice bench, and
you know what we're forgetting? We're always forgetting the San Antonio Spurs, and when you forget the San Antonio Spurs, that's when they come back and bite you, and they bite hard.
The Spurs do not have any home court advantage this year. They play every series on the road. They're the 6th seed, so that's why I would not pick the Spurs to come out the West.
This is my favorite series, though, in the NBA playoffs is LA Clippers. You got Slam City versus old-fashioned, grinded-out, defensive-minded, point guard-oriented basketball on the offensive side. You're going to see a great series. That series is going to be crazy.
It starts tonight at 9:30 on TNT.
Yep.
So my Stanley Cup pick, I'm going to go out of the West. I'm going to go ahead and go with St. Louis Blues. I think they've recovered. They got game 2. They'll be back. Out of the East, I think it'll be the Rangers. And unfortunately, because I'm not a Rangers fan, I do think the Rangers will win the Cup and take it back to New York, just like the 1990s. Thank you all for working through your technical issues. For Michael, Leroy, and Kelvin, thank you all for watching, and we'll have to see you next week on Diamond Kings.